Today is May 26th, 2023. My name is Ann Shi, and I am interviewing Mr. Jian-Jun for the Houston Asian American Archive. Thank you so much for taking our interview, Mr. Zhang.
Thank you very much. Call me Jian-Jun or call me JJ, simply.
Yes, I will.
I'm very honored to be interviewed, talk with you about my life.
Yeah, and we'll jump right in, JJ. So to start, can you tell us when and where were you born?
I was born in Shanghai, in China, 1955.
Can you tell us a little bit about the household you grew up in and the first house, for example, that you grew up in?
Well, yeah, it's a lovely. When I was childhood, before my age is 10, and both my parents have their nice job, and so we're living in the apartment near the Bund, and which is a lot of neighbors like doctors, engineering, business. I don't think it's business because that time should not have business. I think engineer, doctors, and some professors. So like a lot of them middle class or up middle class, the neighborhood, and then yeah, very very lovely, calm, the way I grew up. And when I grew up before the Cultural Revolution started.
And how many siblings do you have?
Total we have 4. I was the youngest, and I have one brother and 2 sisters. And yeah, then my brother, when we all grown up, that's a long time afterwards, and 2 of my sisters become doctors, and my brother is the engineer, and I'm the artist, the only one from the family. I have no idea what's going on, what's happened, but only when I was childhood, when I was a kid, I always because I always like art, because I remember in kindergarten, I think when I was 4 or 5 age, and the tutor asked the kids, I mean, very typical question, say, what is your dream when you're growing up? When you're growing up, and what kind of job or your position, your profession? I say artist, the first. Second, astronomer, to search the sky, space. So, well, I since when I was young, very little, I like art, like nature things, like have a lot of pets, and everything with in the water, like a fish, crab, shrimp, turtle. and also I like grow a lot of plant, trees, flowers. So that's a very, very nice, calm time in my early life.
That's fascinating. Do you remember any specific childhood memories that triggered your dream back then to become an artist?
Well, I think I have no idea. I think because when I was young, I have a health problem, so always have a sick, absent from kindergarten. So my parents that time bought a lot of like illustration books. I like to read, and then I just enjoy all those pictures, and then I try to follow, to draw. And then one day, I think I was sick day, I didn't went to the kindergarten, so I just singing song, talking stories, and found a graphite to draw out the images in my mind on the whole wall of my room. And then I was so proud. I thought, and until like a later evening, I went out the building, outside the building, waiting for my parents come back. I was like, such a great job. And boy, come back, they were so pissed because I drove so much chaos. But, that still is like a lovely memories.
So besides drawing or painting or enjoying nature, what were some of your childhood games that you play, say, with siblings, or you play by yourself?
I play with the neighbors. Some kids we grown up together in the same apartment buildings, and like for instance, like Shangqi chess. And very beginning, this the goal. That's but very very low level, and yeah, I think that's played a game, and also physical. Physical is later. I become very physical, play a game. But when I was a childhood, my health problems, so I don't. The doctors or my parents not allowed me to run out like a crazy, to play games. So I always feel like at home and then read and then draw.
So what were some of the values that your parents instilled in you when you were growing up? Like, did they expect you to become an engineer, doctor, and so on?
Before 10, because my generation is very complicated. And when I was so little, young, so my parents did not really say you have to be to grow up, become what, because they're too young. And I remember they say, whenever you study well, that's become a significant person. That's they always mentioned. And also sometimes like, okay, I grew up in Shanghai, and that time it's very dark. I talk about the city night time. And also it's poor because even my family, I grew up is middle or up middle class, but there's no air condition. The summer is very hot. So people were all like, to carrying little chair sitting outside the complex building near the street. So enjoy the nature wind and then people chatting. It's kind of a lifestyle that time. But then because I mentioned that time the city very dark because not so many neons, right? Then you really see the sky, the star so clear, and always amazed me. I feel like the blue, dark blue sky, sometimes like two-dimensional, and then with the sparkling dots. It's almost like a painting, so beautiful. I remember once, I think at that time when I was 4 or 5, I think I was still in the kindergarten. Once my father looked at me staring on the sky, he said, you know what, you look at it, it's the past. It drives me crazy. I look at there, but he told me it's the past, which is when I grew up, I know the sun, the star, the light year come to my eye is from long this journey. Sorry, but I think those words eventually I recalled when I grew up. I think somehow definitely influenced the direction of my artwork, because later I work in a lot of work deal with space or unknown or mysterious, like a universe. There's something, it's always, I think there's a very strong connected with his one just like a announcement to me. But my mom is different. My mom is so, I feel like I got a lot from my mom's always, she's so care is such a nice person, care, help people, help the, they always train our brothers, sisters, say you all loving each other, help each other, and not only even your friend. And no matter how they poor or rich. And for herself, she always very try to, it's always in the end, the last, because when I was childhood, my health condition not that great. And sometimes frequently in the morning, I have to go to, my mom brought me to the hospital to get a blood test. So like, to have to be, before eating, have the blood take off for the examination. So after we're out from the hospital, she brought me to a small restaurant to buy, that time, a bowl of a 酒娘, like a sesame bowl, something like that, 10 cents for a bowl. And she, because morning I don't have a breakfast, but she doesn't have her breakfast too, because so earlier, because after she did that, she had to send me to home, and then she had to run her job. So when I eat, I say, Mom, why you don't buy for you? She said, I'm not hungry. The first time like that, a few times, I know she's so cared, but she probably also tried to save some money. But that's the person like that. Always, when I growing up, she always mentioned, no matter how you're strong, you have to help people as you can. So very, very, very loving.
And what are some of the values that they educated you to bring?
I think it help people, help each other. I think that's they always, as I remembers. And yeah, there's one thing that's very interesting. In my home, my family, and I think my memory started like when I was kindergarten. And once for a while, or once a week, I can remember, family have a gathering, after dinner gathering, chatting. So my parents ask kids, right? Me, brothers, sisters. So anything you want chatting, or you want to report, you want to discuss, or even you want to criticize them if they did not do something right for, well, it's democracy. But I don't remember what I exactly talked, but I remember the first time I was so excited or scared at the same time. And then suddenly I feel like I've become an adult. So I think, that's kind of a individual, independent, and especially after, because my generation, my time growing up in the very different society. And so especially after Cultural Revolution, that's like so rich, so important for my early educations.
Yeah, that's really encouraging to hear your parents brought you up to be very independent.
Yeah.
And you were talking about food, so 九娘原子 and so on. Maybe you can tell us what your household meal tend to be. For example, what kind of dishes you tend to cook.
Yeah, well, I still remember before my parents hired a nanny, because both my parents were working, and then we have 4 kids, and our age is very close. And when they're young, so they have a nanny. She cooked many different food. I think it's her later. When I grew up, I realized her hometown is Anhui, and we have I'm missing her so much. Once I grew up, and then she left. She left because my grandma came to stay with with us, and then they don't get along. So she left. I feel so sorry and feel so hurt. And I still remember that time I crying, and when I was probably at 5, I crying, run out the whole street to find her. Of course I cannot find, but when I got a job, when I grew up, when I have first salary, when I was 18, I got a job. First month of my salary, I sent money to her. And so her food, I don't remember exactly. I just like enjoyed, but later, my mom, she have to cook, and after job, and lunchtime we're little, but there's community canteen restaurant. So my parents bought some coupons, so we just buy food. And family dishes I mostly remembers like a big clay casserole food, everything like a egg dumplings, 蛋饺, right? And then veggies, and then bean thread, tofu. There's so many things together, because my mom always self-joking say, I have put everything together because I cannot cook an individual because of time. She come back, she doesn't want everyone's waiting too long, starving. And the others, of course, fish. It's always, I love seeing someone's enjoyed meat, fish. But of course, once the Cultural Revolution come, and my parents, my father, especially my father, his salary be cut off mostly. So we suddenly become very, very poor. So I think I remember once a month, we can get some small fish. I think that's it. And the other food, well, it's dessert. If you count it as a food, I think I really enjoyed that time is mooncake. Sweet, but then more than that, more than sweet is because, well, once a year, right, special, but mostly interesting because the story behind. There's a Chang'e, there's a goddess in the moon, and there's a rabbit, the frog. I mean, there's like it's so mysterious, so beautiful. So then have a mooncake. So that's always for me, it's memories. It's the flavor and also the culture stories combined. So that's of course there's many other things, but if you ask my most deeply memories, I think it's that.
Wonderful, thank you. And as we were moving into like the next era of your life, so you were talking about Cultural Revolution. How old were you when the Cultural Revolution started?
I was born 1955, so Cultural Revolution when I was 11. So that's 1966. Yeah, that's the whole life. Everything changed for my life.
Can you tell us a little bit more in detail besides the food on the table? What else has changed?
Well, suddenly, I mean, first my neighbors, parents, my kid, friend, the parents, I mentioned, a lot of us engineering or doctors, and they all become a bad people. I mean, that's crazy time because Chairman Mao said 95% people, workers, peasants, soldiers, is the great revolution, the support. So it means another 5% is bad people. So every company have to find 5% bad people. It's crazy. So what is educated people is bad. So a lot of the people suddenly you see the Red Guard run into the apartment building, and then they broken the door, they smashed things out. And some of my kids, the parents, suicide. And of course later, no longer the Red Guard run into to my parents, and also physical. My father, I think one night I heard my mom cry, and the next morning, at that time I was young, only 11 or 12, and I was so scared. And my brother is 4 or 5 years older, so that time he was so angry, he wanted physical to fight, but my mom's so scared, and then so because and she said, that's winter time. The Red Guard make some jianghu, like a cold, muddy glue, to pull over his collar and throw the glue on his body in the winter, like it's like almost like frozen night. And of course, every day have to self-criticism. And then you'll see the dots ball all over, because not only for my parents, like a whole building, almost there's so many neighbors like that. And then you walk in the street, you see this Red Guard, and all this revolution. I mean, there's a lot of people. I mean, when I grew up, I feel like so sorry for a lot of ignorant, uneducated people with a fanatical adoration for their emperor, for the Chairman Mao. So people, there's that time, it's just like you cannot really imagine. I mean, of course, some people may miss it because they feel they have a power, but for educated people, it's so scary. And yeah, I think that's, and also like when at that time I was young and so scared, there's no one can play with. I mean, some kids, they're young revolutionaries, they're running around, but we're just scared at home. And that's also makes me very young. I start to really dislike the politics completely. And then, of course, because this experience, when I grown up, make me thinking about, how important independent individuals important, no matter what your career is as a person. So, I mean, that's in the future. But during the time when I was childhood, when I was young, little, I mean, just mostly very scary, because you never know what's going to be happen I may lost my parents, because once there's a number of people which are in the building suicide. And I remember once evening, my parents called my brother, sister together. They're very nervous. They say, what if one day they cannot come back, or they disappeared? So your four have to supporting each other. So that's the time. But afterwards, if in a possible way to conclusion to look at it, I feel like I'm become very stronger through that. People can be knocked out or become more stronger.
So during that distress period, how did you support your family, or how did your family support each other, or among your neighbors and friends?
Well, that's when I talk about this 1966, 1967, and then the schools closed. There's no school. At that time, I was at elementary school. School all closed, and the teacher all become a bad class. So well, financially, of course, that's very obviously, like before I grew up in middle or middle class. And then because that my father's salary, I think at that time he used to be I don't 100 like 80, 160 kwai or something, but usually average people is like 50 kwai. So he's quite high income research. So, and Cultural Revolution come, he only 15 from 160 down to 15 kwai. So we cannot really buy a lot of food or like something special. We just can just pay because my mom's salary is not that high. And I remember once early morning, I went with my mom, the winter, very cold, went to the food market, Caichang. So like there's a lot of cabbage, people at the outside, not so fresh, people pick up, throw it away. We went there to pick it up. So like I mentioned, like once a month, have little fish. That's my parents thought that at least when we thought, especially my brother, sister, that age, the body is growing up, need some nutrition. So yeah, otherwise just like in mental or the physical chaos for my family or for when I grew up. but very luckily, I met in junior high school. Well, that's probably my story a little bit further beyond. So 1966 to 1969, there's no school all closed, 3 years. And 1969, the school reopened. The school reopened, but still it's a Cultural Revolution time. And they allowed teaching students be educated, but of course, a lot of propagandas, political brainwash. And also they taught simple math and grammar, to writing. But I'm very lucky I met my art teacher there. So he changed my life. And because of, I still remember clearly, and his name is Li Zijing, Li Laoshi. And once in the first art class, and the project is writing word like a 美术字, like a art design characters. And then he passing by, he look around each kids in the classroom, and then he look at my work. He say, 小同学, like a little kid, students, I saw you have a very good sense. You did beautiful work. Do you like art? Do you like to draw? I say yes, I love, because that's when I was a childhood in kindergarten, I started really enjoy it. I say yes, I do very much. Then he said, after class, could you come to my office? So I went with other two classmates. I went to his office. He showed us some artwork and also illustrations, and of course all propaganda, Chairman Mao or the Red Guard, those. He said, I can open the organize after school program teaching art. Do you want it? I saw you have those talent. I said yes, I very enjoy much. So I started. After a few months, only 2 students left. Only two students stayed, including me. The others are left because sometimes people really boring or it's not for them. But then after more and more getting closer, for me, I feel like he's not just a teacher, he's my big brother, especially after Cultural Revolution, because when I mentioned that in 1969, my father be kicked away to countryside, my brother, sister, all sent it to countryside. In Shanghai, only my mom and me, myself. So very lonely and very scary lonely. And then suddenly I feel like that's a big brother for me. And he teach me art. And also he's also such a nice, kind person. And after a few months, he quietly told me, he said, I know you have he said, you have talent as art. I want to teach you real art, because it's not propaganda. But you have to promise. You cannot tell this to anyone, your classmate, your teacher, even your parents. I promise. I say, yes, I promise. I remember once he called me, he went to his home. He privately collect Rembrandt, some catalog, Rembrandt's work, Velasquez. There's a Western classical masterwork. I mean, for me, it's complete. I have no idea about the Western art, in my generation that time. That's the real art. I'm just amazed. They're so beautiful. The lighting technique. Of course, it's not original, but even for print, very bad print, it's for me, it's complete open another world. And after more, he trained me quietly. And then in after school program, he trained me also in the school, but there's one small White House, and some be used as our education program, but he have to close all the window, put the curtain. Even the summer, that time, there's no air conditioning, no fan even. Sweating, I remember we're only underwear, all sweat to learn to draw classical European stuff, because he's the teacher, started from Germany. So trained him. So even during the Cultural Revolution time, he trained me. It's a real art, as he said. And yeah, so that's that's in the beginning. When in my generation, I'm very lucky, because once the later school, after Cultural Revolution and school reopened, and then they opened for the examination at art school. When I started pen to draw, all the teacher later, they told me, they are shocked. They say, how surprised, after Cultural Revolution, we still can see the young people can draw like a professional trend. So, and then also, of course, not only he trained me as a good art technique, but also I think it's, like I mentioned, he's like my big brother. He's so honest, so helpful, so care people. It's just like a nice person. So I'm always very lucky. And it's funny, I did the same thing when I left China later in the 80s, when I came to America. I think when I first won the grant from a Rockefeller Foundation, I sent him the money. I want to show, it's not the money, I want to show my appreciation. Sorry, my story jumped a little bit too far.
Not at all. It's so fascinating, and it's so encouraging to see humanity still being discovered in this very distressful time. And so you were able to keep the secret with your teacher throughout the Cultural Revolution.
Yeah, and also, because that's Cultural Revolution. That's during the Cultural Revolution, I privately, secretly studied with him. And so the others also, the Cultural Revolution, those experience or shockness or scariness somehow make me think, during that time when I was kids, I'm scaring. But when I grown up, make me think, how important your your full information, your independence, your how important. And yes, then when I grew up, I noticed not only in China, I mean, there's many countries, many in the history happened so many sad stories. And then that's make me think, because lately I have a lot of projects I involved. It's about humanity and to see human, to focus, to survey human being in different culture, different conditions. Like for instance, well, that's in 1995. Do you mind? I might jump something else because I know that's connected with my Cultural Revolution time, because I saw people how hate each other, how killing each other. 1995 in New York, I met as Zen master Bernie Glassman, very well-known American Zen master. And of course, after Cultural Revolution in Shanghai, I started the Zen and Taoism, but in different way. And because Bernie Glassman, the way he Zen practice, he brought his student to walk in the street, to working for homeless society involvement. So that's opened my influenced my artwork, because before my artwork, Zen or Taoism, like a lot of my work, nature, human, the dialogue, balance, 平衡, and also that's very typical, like, you know, Oriental Taoism influence. But there's another kind of Zen, I mean, one's also like a mental practice, but Bernie is the way he involved the society. So that's I met him in 1994, but 95, I've been invited to an exhibition international show in Hiroshima for the nuclear bomb 50 years anniversary. My project is I walk in the street or went to the party or in the school, anywhere. I try to find people from all the individual different only I prepared my project. The photographer followed me. That 3 months, I spent 3 months, and I'll almost get a heat exhaustion because walking the street in the summer. And I ask people to draw a dove. Only when I ask, the dove has to be from this to that direction. And then they write their name, their occupation. And I mean, there's a long story, a lot of stories. And it's a very interesting. People in the beginning, easy to draw a dove. People say, I'm not an artist. I say, I'm not to do drawing competition. I talk about my concept, what I want to do. And so people start to draw that. Then there's one country, people just hard to find it. But once happened, I found in the street in Broadway, downtown. And he say, hey, I don't know how to draw a dove. I say, I just say, just your heart for peace. So he just draws so crazy, so dramatic. I feel like, wow, what's going on? And then he draw a circle, 360-degree love. He say, hey, dove man, this is my dove. And then after I say goodbye, he pulled me on the side. He gave me a little bag. He's a drug dealer. He sell drug in the bar. But he said, he's a dove man. He said, peace is lovely, drug also wonderful. I mean, this is a funny story. But after back, I feel like even the drug dealer when you've been waking up and deep in heart, you always also have showing the love for each other, stop killing each other. There's a whole story, like I spent 3 months. There's another story also very deeply. There's the one country, and a gentleman, I met him, and then he listened to my story. He say, stuff only one from the God. You can make, how you can make over 100 stuff, because that time 186 individual countries that time. But he said, your project really touching me. Against my religion beliefs, he drew a dove for me and signed his name and his original country nationality. And the project, once I collect all the dove people draw, and then on August 5th, that's the 50 years anniversary from nuclear bomb in Hiroshima. So in my studio in New York, I cleaned whole space. On the floor, I put a fax machine. I lined up 186 stuff on paper. And the other side in Hiroshima, my assistant, they're on the ground. They put it on the ash on the ground. And then they have a wood column and a fax machine in the air. So when I started sending, that time no computer, it's a fax machine. So when I started faxing this dove, each one, they come out from fax machine in the air, they cut it, they flow the dove, flow down to the ground, flow like a few hours, like all the dove I collected, people participant into from New York in the same time, within second down covered in Hiroshima. It's very idealistic work. It's a dream. But I think, it's human, it's a society, it's how people can love each other instead of killing each other. So that's influenced a lot of my artwork. I mean, my early life experience, and also I met Bernie Glassman, how my artwork involved to the societal, later I say the societal landscape.
Wow, that was beautiful. And you were able to be pulled out from the distress and actually return to the society with something with so much of love and joy. Yeah, we'd love to see that work if you could send us some.
I will send you this images, and also they have a video, a film document, because some long, like hours, because the photographer followed 3 months. And I remember the Secretary of the UN write an email for appreciate the work, and then New York Times art reviews, and then also later the document show in New York and also Düsseldorf Museum in Germany. So I showed the video about the process, 3 months, and then the dove, people draw the original dove on the wall, and also the fax copy from Hiroshima. So all the stuff, and also photo, because each people draw color block, yellow, white, all different people's hand. We drawing the stuff like hundreds. So that's whole wall and on floor. So that's a document. I can email you some. Yeah, and this work, and also I think there's another work related. It's 1997. I did in Japan. I made the work called Footprint. I built up like stone island, and the whole space just empty. This in the center have a stone island. The stone island, of course, I made it is hollow, and underneath have all the water. So the water to cover the surface of the stone island and dropping down, they circulate. And the top of the stone island have a footprint. I collect footprints, the samples from different ethnic. I mean, not everyone, like only 12 or 9 footprint around the circle. Male, female, young, old, but from different country. and I chiseled and then like a almost like human's monument. So when you first walk in the space, our museum, our gallery do, you smell the ink because the water mixed with the ink and circulate in the stone island. And then you heard sound of water, very peaceful. And the people, the participant audience in Japan, they're very easy to do. They have take off the shoes. They're walking on the island, they're walking down the footprint captured on the floor, which is very fine canvas, very, very fine cotton. So the footprint covered, but the footprint very individual. But each day they move more and more, the whole process, 3 months, it cross over. Again, it's my dreamland is human, each one individual, but how we cross, we never know, but how it become as family, together. So that 2 work actually made me win the prize honor from the New York Foundation for the Arts. They announce every 3 years, once every 3 years. So the prize is for sculptor and installation artist. So that's 1997. So that's somehow influence and for when I grow up, become an artist. So there's a lot of memories, a lot of something is there. So.
And thank you for all this amazing elaboration on your art and how Cultural Revolution contributed to those thoughts. And as we go back in time a little bit to when it happened, so after the Cultural Revolution, did your father and 3 brothers came back to Shanghai?
My father back to Shanghai. My brothers, sisters, no, they stayed in the countryside, but then they went through their education examination. They went to college, and not my brother. I think at that time he is dating. He gave up the chance to be college. He decided to stay with his fiancée, but they're working in some a big company in Anhui province. And 2 of my sisters, they went to college and university and then become doctors. And one back to Shanghai, one married and stayed in other province.
And did your parents and siblings support your decision to pursue further education in arts?
Well, my father, yes. He say, do your belief, do your love, your inspiration. That's very important. But my mom's scary because she still remembered this Cultural Revolution, how many artists, how many people, those people in the art, how bad life they face. So she's not support. My brother, sister during that time, they were already separate because when I was 14, they all be kicked out, right? They all sent to the countryside. So because they are a few years, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years older than me, so during that time, no school, then they sent up the young generation, young students, after there's no job in the city, right? So Chairman Mao said, go countryside to study from peasants. So they all be kicked out to the countryside. So I separated with them when I was 14. So they all, I mean, that time there's no internet. Phone call is very expensive. So write a letter, travel like a few weeks. And so, but we're not really that much contact, but we are very close, deeply.
You said you were 14 and you physically left your family. So
I was in Shanghai. Because when I was 14, my brother, sister, all be sent out. And also my father. My father was, that's 1969, which I'm 14. My first, I think the winter is January. My brother first be sent out to countryside. And in the summer, I think June, two of my sister sent to North Mongolia. And 1970, so a year after, my father be sent to also northern province. So that's when I was 14, so 15, so only me and my mother live in Shanghai.
So it was when you're almost 21 that the Cultural Revolution ended, right?
96, yeah.
And,
That's 1970, 1976, yeah.
and you immediately applied for art school back then.
Actually, 1975, a year before Cultural Revolution, I applied because, that's a very interesting timing. That's because 1975, Deng Xiaoping back to the Central Committee. And somehow Mao, maybe I've tried to need balance or ask Deng Xiaoping. When Deng Xiaoping back to his position, so he said, higher education is important. But in 75, the whole China opened 4 university, college open. But that's for experimental open. And then 2 in Shanghai, 2 in Beijing. In Shanghai is the Shanghai Theatre Academy and the Shanghai Music School. In Beijing is the Central Theatre Academy and the Central Music School. So it's art, one from Beijing, one from Shanghai. So once 75, when they started open, have examination, I remember like thousands of people, because not only the young students graduated, and also because of 10 years, there's no university, a lot of people older than me. Now it's a chance to get into the college, university to learn art, professional learn. So I remember 1,000 students, like huge place, like the summer examination time, would draw a model life, a portrait, and they close all the window. I sweaty, I remember draw. But then I went very high level. I got in because like I mentioned before, I was very lucky. I trained very professional like drawing, right? And so all the professor later, after getting school later, become a friend. They say they are surprised. So I got into the art school, very lucky.
So besides drawing, and you said earlier it was mimicking the Dazibao, and it was all like prints and design, like graphic design. What else were you experimenting or studying in your college education?
In college education, well, we have an oil painting, we have a model, we paint, but of course, that still is very, not say like a cultural revolution propaganda, it's more classical painting technique we train, but it's not modern. It's not a modern artwork. But then, because I met another teacher in school, which is also very lucky, Chen Junde, Chen Laoshi. His teacher is Liu Haisu. So during the time, 1920, 30, a lot of Chinese artists studied in France, in Belgium, in Germany, in Japan. And then during the 40, 50, back to China. And then Cultural Revolution started, they all gathering, hiding in Shanghai. But they have in the beginning, they have they call salon, they show the work, and Cultural Revolution start, they teaching some students very privately. So Chen Junde later, after that, he was the professor. So he trained me some impressionist, Monet, Cezanne. I mean, that's but that's it's not in the class project. It's outside class. I learned a lot of this. And then Cultural Revolution over in 1 year after. So then we have more chance to see some catalog. We have some catalog started published, and not only the art and also literature, and also the book, philosophy. So I jump in. I think every evening I was in the library. I was the latest reader in the library. Before they close, they have to be closed. So I read all those Europe literature, and also a lot of philosophy. Schopenhauer, Nietzsche, that's the generation, because the Cultural Revolution over, suddenly open, I just want to learn, just catch up. And yeah, so and also there's another very interesting when I mentioned contemporary, because at that time even college open, but there's no contemporary art like today, because like a multimedia. That time is, your oil painting is you do oil, your Chinese painting department, you learn Chinese painting, all separate. But when I was in Shanghai Theatre Academy, therefore we have a fine arts department, we have a stage design department, we have a performance department, we have a director department, 导演系, and then also a writing program. So all together become a very much like an installation, like multimedia. So that's why there's some interview, some people write article, they say, look at it, that like Cai Guoqiang, Chen Zhen, it's my schoolmate and me. So the some students were more sensitive. So we all how together in this space, different media to work together, instead of very individual, separate limit. So that's again, 歪打正着. It's just like it's happened, but of course it has to be, you have those sense to feel that. So it happened like Cai Guoqiang, Chen Zhen, we're a very close friend.
So who were some of the masters that you were studying back then, like on textbooks? You mentioned earlier in elementary school, your teacher showed you Velasquez and Rembrandt.
Yeah.
Who else are you studying in college then?
Yeah, in the college, of course, that time we started to see Picasso and Malevich, very special for me, and Kandinsky. And in the beginning, of course, Cezanne and this Impressionist and Expressionist is quickly went through. Then I really like the even Dali for a while, the Surrealism, and yeah, quickly, all very quickly, like forward, like Rouault. And then 1979, that year happened, I went to Longmen Gate, Longmen Shiku, Yongle Gong is a Taoism temple, mirror painting, and then Dunhuang Shiku. Every place I spent a month living there to draw, to work. That is shaking me again. It's because opened another scene for me, because before I say I learned very earlier and Western painting, beautiful, like strongly influenced. It's very important. But then it's everything is when I respond from what I see, that is a tree, it's a 焦点透视, it's a reality. But from those Taoism, Buddhism temple, suddenly everything's two-dimensional. But then they go to directly into my heart. That's the experience I never had before. So that's a year. It just happened a year. I went to those places, and each place I spent a month to do painting, not only copy, it's really thinking and redo. At that time, Dunhuang is not open for public. I put an easel with my artwork for all the cave open for me. And I can do, because besides technique, and also I quickly notice even tradition has a lot of integrate, because it's from different ethnic, different time. From the Buddhist, from you will see the Dunhuang, early Dunhuang, you will see a lot of Indian influence. And then later Shaosu means like Bei Wei and Northern Wei dynasty, there's another influence, and later Tang dynasty. It is one, areas from hundreds years, how the culture integrate with one subject. So that's a very strong shock impact. When I back to Shanghai, I stopped to do painting as my experimental painting. Suddenly, I don't know how I continue. So it took me about a year. So my work started big change, and because when I back, since I don't know how to continue doing the artwork as I used to do, and I start to look at Laozi, Zhuangzi, and also Taoism and Buddhism, because those knowledge I never ever touched before. And I grew up in Shanghai, very westernized, and on my early education like that. So because that, I started looking at Laozi, Zhuangzi, and also look at this, the silk carving like Zhuanke and Yingxu, Yangshao, ancient archaeology site. Those it's also amazed me strongly. So later my artwork color changed from a very bright color to black and white, very simple. And I start to 1980, very early. I start to a year after Dunhuang, I started using nature materials like stone, sand directly on canvas, instead to paint, to describe. I using the nature material, and in the beginning stone, later added branches, the wood. It's all about the nature elements, and then I added rice paper, ink over those object, because I think all the materials has carrying some cultural message, like Sumi ink and paper. It's from mankind, man-made. Stone, some other from nature. There's something the dialogue capture, and also meantime I also use an oil pen. The oil painting is my major oil painting department. I use oil very naturally, but the oil, say it's just a brush stroke, the oil or the ink touching, is different. It's all black, but those black, the sense, very sensitive, it's different. You see the culture, something, it's interesting dialogue. So since then, my artwork always, until today, I always using those all the different media together. So that's the way I feel like I try to balance between the difference.
That's fascinating. And you were talking about the school having a very kind of multimedia experience for you with all the departments together. How did that impact your use of medium later on?
Yeah, for instance, before I mentioned the one I used a fax machine in Hiroshima, and then later I used lot of nature materials, the water, but the water flows, water stayed, water disappeared, become time, and the water as elements, very from a philosophical way, like water and fire, or yin and yang, or scientifically, that's very powerful nature elements. I use a lot of physical water with my artwork, and sometimes in 1992, I started working, dropped ink on the paper and using fire torch light to burn the ink layer by layer. The surface, I have to very control well, otherwise the paper can burn quickly. So I put the ink, burn layer by layer. The surface almost like a planet, the surface, or moon, like texture, because the ink, when the same ink keep burning, they have a certain texture. And then the others, I drop water mixed with water washed ink. So the painting I call water and fire. It's elements. There's no any painting. It's happening with human involved with nature elements. So that's the artwork. I think, and also I did a lot of work with because the water they have flowing, the movements, they can be disappearing, and they can be stayed, and also the water can be following the direction following in the site, because they're not just say I designed that way, how to follow the coincident. So I have a lot of installation is happening. I designed the ideas, but then how happening the process is by chance. If you are interested, I can send you. I have a lot of those big installations and then artwork. I did a Chenzi one, vestiges of process. Chenzi one, Chenzi one, a 100-word single character, but all individual are different. But talk about the Kaitian PD to universal, to cultural, to down to earth. It's like such a fantastic icon. So when I'm working in the project in the museum, so I preparing Chenzi one samples. Some is a Dazhuan type, some is Song Huizong Shoujing Ti, or different type. And I preparing the brush, and it's also this textbook. The participant become they can see, enjoy. The first day is all open, and I wrote a word, and I asked people, you can participate. You can write everything everywhere, but have to follow from 1,000 characters. You cannot. You can repeat a word characters, but has to be everything limited in the 1,000 Chenzi one. So people start writing, and different style or their own style, and big, small, different. And for months, the whole museum covered, more and more covered. And during the time, during the process time, I dip on the wall color by coincidence to raise off some 刷墙 by coincidence. It painted over, like making the wall partially off, partially still there, and people continue to write, almost like archaeology site. And then also I wrote using color, draw some punctuations. So the whole piece, when I concern, is the cultural movements, and with everyone involved, tradition, and what people walking into space feels familiar, because you still can recognize Chenzi one, but you get shocked. You don't know what's going on, what's happened. This is my a group conceptual artwork. When I left China, And then when I returned, I started because I left China in '89. The second time, first time is the ACC program in '87, but then until '95, 6 years, I cannot going back. I didn't back, but after 6 years, a big time gap, and it's shocking me because the society changed tremendously, good or bad. I feel like there's something as artists I want to focus on these issues, like the transition and sincerely misunderstanding or destroying or contribution at the same time. So I did a lot of those. I just mentioned that's a Jian-Jun. I want to found a foundation. It's a base. It's very traditional form. And how to ever involve through the time. And then it's some people say excitement, some people say destroying. I don't give the conclusion, but everyone involved, everyone in part of it, and now after everyone thinking about it. After many, like also 2019, I started in the Royal Academy in London, and then did a human traces about the people. I mean, this is I don't want to occupy too long, but if you're interested, I can send you a lot of those because this is my artwork.
So you said 千字文 happened before or after '89?
That's after '89. After '89, because when I left China, '89. The first time I came to America is '87. I received the fellowship from Asia Cultural Council. So I spent 8 months in New York and to research contemporary art, practice art. And '89, I left China, come to America. So until '95, so I'm back to China for visiting my parents. So that 6 years I haven't seen them. And then because that is like a lot of because it's society like a huge change. So that's shocked me. I'm not making judgment, yes or no, right or wrong. I just feel like there's something as artists I want to capture the societal landscape in a very special moment. But I don't want to just a conceptual artist just put some notes. I want to like has a certain visual impact. So then I start to create China chapter. That's using antique. But then later, there's many. Then Jian-Jun is Jian-Jun actually started 2016. It's not long ago. But I did a few versions. I did it in Shanghai and Xi'an, and then also Istanbul.
So just to keep consistency, you were also working as a shipbuilder after you graduated from arts academies.
No, a shipbuilder is when I was after junior high school. And because at that time, there's no art school. And art school is open, before we talk about it, it's 1975. When I graduated from high school, it's 1972. So during that time, there's no college. So I got a job in the shipyard. So that's in Shanghai. Because my sister, my brother all kicked out from Shanghai. So in my generation, my time that year, I have some job offered in Shanghai. So the school say, your family, everyone's you're out, so you're in Shanghai. So they gave me, it's not, I don't have a choice to choose which job, but I got a exception note. So I went to the shipyard.
And what happened after you graduate from college?
After graduate from college, I got some research position in the Shanghai Artists Association a year. or half year. Then they canceled that program. So then they put me, because there's no, during that time, everyone's supposed to have a job. You have a job, you cannot lay off someone, you cannot fire someone. So they found me a job at the Shanghai Art Exhibition Gallery Center, which belongs to Shanghai Artists Association. So I become they have a research department. I become a young worker there.
And you stayed in that job until 87. You got a fellowship to come to New York.
Yeah. And of course, during the time, I got a little trouble because 81, I got this job. And 83, I, with another few young artists, we all self-organized exhibition called 83 Painting Experimental Exhibition. I started showing my abstraction work, a lot of work with nature, with stone, with everything. And open in Fudan University, the teachers club, because that time there's no any museum will accept those work. So we just organized, asked someone to prove we showed there. Half a day, the show will be closed. And boy, I was later the newspaper criticized I was the worst, badly influenced by Western bourgeois culture, because say that my work is the peasants, workers. I mean, the people don't understand. It's very cultural revolution, this creativity language. They asked me to do selfish criticism, which is my leader, my boss that time. He's head of a Shanghai Artist Exhibition Center. He said, Xiao Zhang, he said, I went to the meeting in the Cultural Bureau meeting. They announced your name a few times. You have to do a self-criticism so I can help you out. I said, for what reason I to do? He said, you had very bad influence by the bourgeois, Western bourgeois influence. I said, I've had a very bad influence by Taoism, tradition, Chinese culture. Because I'm arguing, I say, that's nature, that's work is truly, I think about nature, a human being, how the dialogue. So that's after Dunhuang, right? I start to study, learn Taoism, nature. I start to use the nature elements. So those type of work. And during that time, of course, it's a crazy time. Again, even 83 is after Cultural Revolution, but happened sometimes suddenly they call anti-spiritual pollution movement. And happened when I had my show at the same time. And this show become a bad case. And so I become doorman. Since I refuse to do self-criticism, I become doorman in the museum for 8 months, and suddenly gone. I'm free. It's no pressure. It's because the central government have a really conflict, because Zhao Ziyang who are back to the central government position. So they're back to open policy again. So 83, anti-political spiritual, because some leader, they follow Mao's strategies. So like there's a lot of fighting in the top government, which is the policy is really influence everyone's life. So 83, and when I become doorman, 84, I am free back to my position. And then 84, the end of year 84, one of my show in my artwork in the show be closed, Eternal Dialogue in Shanghai be collected by a big collector from the US, from LA. He has his own museum collection, Westman collection art. And he and his curator come, and I met him. I met him and met them, and they really like it. And then they paid $10,000 US that time. That time, for everyone, that's whole my life cannot make that money. But it's happened 84, 85, the political movement changed. The central government started pushing 万元户, means self-business, individual business. Suddenly I become a young hero. I made such a huge money. It's crazy time. What? I lost your voice.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I was just saying it's super interesting. Everything happens and changes very quickly regarding to politics.
Yes.
And that might have caused the first Chinese contemporary artists, that generation, to be very political.
Yes. Yeah, very much like it is. You never know. Suddenly something can be hero suddenly become a doorman.
And following that, what happened in 89? Like, were you in China or were you in the US back then?
89, 80, 87 to 88, I was a fellowship from Asia Cultural Council. So I was basically in New York, and then 88, the summer back to Shanghai, and then 80, the summer I went to Germany, have my exhibition, then travel in Europe. And then also meantime, since 86, I've become the head of a art research department at Shanghai Art Museum, because in 85, started a Shanghai Art Museum. So that's the first museum in Shanghai, in government-based, contemporary, modern, let's say. And in 87, I become assistant director in Shanghai Art Museum. I was youngest assistant director in China at that time, museum system. 88, when I back from Europe and back to Shanghai, so create my artwork and also working for Shanghai Art Museum. And also I organized some program called Experimental Art Exhibition Center. So I support young artists, some like a not say official style, some experiment, give young artists have an exhibition chance. You know, that's 89. And then I also participant the first China avant-garde show in Beijing. It's in the beginning of the 89, February 89. And then later I realized the political situation changed and tremendously, crazily. And of course I support students for the democracy movements. And then I know how time I have to leave, because I feel like unsafe again. My childhood memories, I don't want my life back, my parents, and all, you know, you cannot really do contemporary art like 83, my show will be closed. So I and Freud friend help, so I left China. So 89.
And hearing what happened after you left China, what were some of your immediate reactions?
China, how to react when I left?
Yeah, how did you react when you hear about what happened in the June 4th?
Oh, June 4th, I was in Shanghai. I know. I was even June 5th, I'm still with students in the street in Shanghai. I mean, I left it, it's July.
I see. And what were you like doing, and what were some of the reactions that you had immediately hearing about what happened in Tiananmen?
Well, there's a lot of information people, from students, from a friend, from a VOA, from a different Voice America, there's many informations. And so during that time, I just told myself, I has to be very careful, has to be time for me to leave. That's my strategy, my react, because that's very dramatic when I left, because the art museum did not know I'm leaving. I disappeared, but I got a visa, I got a passport. I mean, there's a people in charge in the Shanghai Art Museum in charge for political, for document. He agreed to help me, so he keep the secret, so the leadership doesn't know I'm leaving, like a movie story. And yeah, and then I mean, that's like so dramatic. So that's why after 89 until 95, actually I back China. But 94, my boss, the director of Shanghai Art Museum, Fang Lao Shi, he come to visit New York for a museum project. He said, Zhang Jian-Jun, come back with me. I need you, because he's quite supportive. He's an artist himself, the director of Shanghai Art Museum. He's quite a support young artists, experimental. He said art has to be experimental, can keep going, create. It's not just following the tradition, even though he is a traditional Chinese painter. But he's very open mind, and then he's quite trust me. And then he said, when I left, he found a few workers replace my job. He said, you are the model of a hard worker. So that's 94. But then we start to, I didn't back. I say a little bit too late. I say I got stuck in New York with my fiance. But I say I will come back to visit sometime. But then we start talking about it. He's talk about it. He said, when you're in the Shanghai Art Museum, you open Shanghai like a museum, have an experimental center to show what he want to do it again. So we start to talking about some possibility, and then we talk about the biennial. And of course, Chen Zhen as another artist friend, also very close with the professor, director Fang Zhenxian. So that time he lives in Paris. So he also, we have the kind of a communication, and finally Director Fang invited us back to Shanghai 95. We had a meeting talking about it, set up the first Shanghai Biennial.
That's fascinating. And have you met anyone that kind of besides Chen Zhen and Mr. Fang that has shared the same vision that and you were doing, like such as another artist that you're appreciating as your peer?
I mean, for Chinese, for doing, I mean, there's a Gu Wenda also very helpful, and talk about that. There's another my schoolmate oh, wait a second, suddenly my name. And he went to Japan long time, and Hu Xiangchen. So he also very close to Fang, and talk about how the art has to be international open policy. That's happened in Shanghai because that's first biennial after Tiananmen Square situation. So 96, they start Shanghai Biennial. It's very unusual in China. But because in Shanghai, during the time, in the Shanghai Art Museum, and Mr. Fang, he's a very open policy. And then he surrounded him like a group of young artists, including me. He appointed me as a assistant director, and he appointed me as the head of research department. He appointed me organized the first grand opening show from Shanghai Art Museum, working for him, with him, two together. That's 86. So we showed abstraction painting, we showed a lot of contemporary work. I mean, that's impossible. That's the only official, government official museum that time in Shanghai for modern. And we're showing a lot of famous, so-called official political famous artists, the work lost, even not been chosen, because I organized another select, like a committee team. Chen Zhen is one of the curator. I mean, that time we don't know the curator. Chen Zhen is one of the committee member. Another called Yang Hui and me, and those two artists never had a show in Shanghai Art Museum working for contemporary art. So we choose the work, we select the work, and then how to display the show. That's for the first Shanghai Art Museum grand opening show. We're not as traditional way, your big political leader position the first, and the famous second, We designed for as artwork, art exhibition, how to work together, how to look beautiful instead you're famous, your high position. So that's the opening show. And after 3 days, there's no any news response. So I remember my boss, director Fang Laoshi, he said, Xiao Zhang, he said, Zhang Jian-Jun, go find out what's going on. There's no any response. So I called my friends in the media, newspaper, because that time I'm quite active as a young star in Shanghai art scene. So I called them, people from TV station or different newspaper, their editor. I said, what's going on? He said, Zhang Jian-Jun, we didn't criticize you. It's already, you're very lucky because we know you. So do you know how many people you're angry to you? Because they supposed the show, the work should be selected, but they lost because they're not, we don't think the work is qualified. But they're always the work in the museum show, but they lost. And all the work's not in the center. So I know I have a lot of trouble, but I say that I just want to say the director Fang, he's so special. He made the Shanghai Art Museum can become like the most contemporary art museum during that time. That time impossible. That's the first Shanghai Biennial happened in Shanghai Art Museum. That's also because that. And the first biennial opened, and then the big conflict because they got a big trouble from a central, I don't think central government, because that time already I'm not working for Shanghai Art Museum, but director Fang told me they get a lot of pressure from a central art association, asked them because the exhibition had 3 installations, not only painting, and one is my work, Tai Chi Disco. I did a video installation, and Chen Zhen did a installation sculpture focusing on those corruption issues. And Gu Wenda, because the first biennial, only 3, it's mainly Chinese, only 3 international, but it has a Chinese background. Like I came from Shanghai, Chen Zhen also born in Shanghai, Gu Wenda, Shanghai, but later we went different countries, America or France. So the first biennial, Mr. Fang, he wanted to be open, but also be a little bit political. The cleverness have to be care about how to not make too much noise, but still not making because of big trouble. Because my work it's not that big issues, and people just don't like it or feel odd because of the video installation I call Tai Chi Disco, and a video group of people like old lady morning disco dance. okay, it's a practice of physical, but they play disco music, the 70s. That's very odd. I feel like disco is very individual, but here is the disco music with the whole group, complete movement. I feel like my time, that time, because I traveled that time, see the difference. I saw there's a, when I in my statement for work, I say the sincerely misunderstanding. So then on the floor, have all those bricks I collected from torn down from the Shikuman buildings. And the center has a disco floor, the glass, the Tai Chi pattern with same pattern, but with the color following the music, changing the pattern, like disco dance, very vibrant, very excitement. But then you also feel all the TV surround the whole room. And then you see the disco music, but you see all the movement like old ladies practice. You should just feel like it's funny, it's odd, but also make people think about. And because for me, I left China that 6 years, it's empathy experience. And everything's so strike when I went back. I'm so surprised there's not many, that time, no other artists, Chinese artists working on issues. I guess because people living there get used to it. I suddenly jumped back. I saw this old and new, traditional, modern, and east and west. There's no transition, squeezing together that time during the early 90s, very strong. And it's all the energy. And then so that's I started working, but that's piece I showed in Shanghai Biennial. But Chen Zhen's work get more trouble because his work is big table with a lot of gamble things, gamble ticket. And then there's something like a lot of statement on table. And then underneath all this chimney, like a matong. And so, yeah, that work has to be a big conflict. So the museum Shanghai Art Museum get a lot of pressure during that time. That 96. Yeah.
That's super interesting to hear. So did you feel a very big shock with the culture and art scene in Shanghai, like being a little bit controlled by propaganda and political?
I think, to be honest, I'm not really shocked because I came from, growing up, see so many. I've been through a lot. Even my life experience, I feel like in my parents' generation, usually my generation, people don't get that many. Like I'd be criticized by major newspapers, say I have to be self-criticism, otherwise become dormant. I mean, not many people like my generation like that. So I don't feel surprised. But when I shocked, when I surprised is when 89, I left until 95. When I returned, I was shocked is the society changed tremendously. Not only the building, also mentality and people's lifestyle and people ego, the whole society. I mean, just like it's a very, in the other hand, very exciting, good and bad at the same time. So I started using a lot of or document a lot of those images through the time from, like since middle 90s, I photo document a lot of torn down Shikuman and then document cultural tradition things. And until nowadays, I've been documenting 20 years. So one day I'm gonna like thousands those images. I mean, sometimes I showed only a few people really excited. And I had one part of my installation in the show in San Francisco Asian Art Museum is called Mirage Garden. I showed about the Shanghai Garden, Mirage Garden. So I did some video and an installation and also some old house, the old bricks and also there's many other things. I mean, this for my career, I have a lot of, I did a work, but very interesting, like my artwork, my style is different than most artists, because when I mentioned I work with like a dialogue with nature, like a Robin's son, or early time working those abstract painting, very individual, like a metaphysics. But the other hand, at the same time, I'm working on the societal, like survey societal landscape. The both together, I always say since the 80s, my work since like that, like breathing, like inhale and exhale. That's just the whole thing. This is my work. I'm usually people are just working on one style, you keep working, develop. But my one direction is in and out with myself. So I always just simply say like my self breathing style, inhale, exhale.
So after the Shanghai Biennial, in what year did you decide to spend more time in the US, become an American?
Since '89, I mainly stayed in US, and then '95 I back to Shanghai to to travel to visit, to help to organize, part of it organized, and then '96 to join participant Shanghai Biennale. Later, every year I back to Shanghai and visit my parents, and also meet some artist friend, also continue research my art project, get collected materials. But back to New York, and because New York for me is very, very important as an artist, because I met a lot of friends from different cultural background, because that's also, it's how to, I think New York is a really deep city, the place integrate from mixed different cultures. I mean, at least my experience. So yeah, I met artists, friend, I met like Zen master, and I also become a 97, I started teaching NYU. And so I travel in between. So when back to China more often is NYU since 2006, they opened Shanghai Start Away program. So my boss found, he said, JJ, go Shanghai. He sent me back to Shanghai because he said, going there not only, he said, only you. He's like, teaching art, not just technique. It's how to adapt different culture. You came from Shanghai, came from China, you came to America, you get into like a contemporary art, like mainstream, you become a contemporary international artist. But those experience, like the same you can share with the American student going to China. And because at that time, only American students, no Chinese students. So that's still Start Away program until 2010, NYU opened Shanghai campus, like 4-year program. So then there's a half Chinese student, half American student from NYU. So then in 2007, I started like a 1 semester in Shanghai, 1 semester back to New York. Until 2010, I 2 semesters in New York, because become a associate professor for Shanghai, NYU Shanghai. So my place office from New York to move to Shanghai.
So as an artist, I'm sure you're very much, you pay a lot of attention to the idea of identity and culture and diaspora. So how have the kind of immigration and migration to different country impacted your work and your thought processes?
Good question. It's because that gave me a lot of a chance to see myself and see people in different background, and see people it's even in the difference is we have any similarity. That's when I did a big project started 2019 from a Royal Academy in London, and then later Wu Hong curated the travel show in different museums called Human Traces. But that's a long story. I can send you if you are interested. I don't know your time. and also the question also reminds me like identity and migration, immigrant, who I am. And in beginning, first few years, I'm very much like, if I think from 89 to 94, my work still like very much influenced by Zen and Taoism, nature. And from painting 2-dimension down to 3-dimension, and using water, and down to become a sculpture. And then did a earthwork, because in Jurassic Sculpture Park near San Francisco, there's a place being invited to the public in the public arts. That's the spot. This is the spot almost every day they have a fog come down. So I did a work. I want to deal with the work directly with the fog. So in the pond, is there like 50 meter long, and then with water and with the ink, and then north, south, east, west, I put 4 tree trunks, like each one have 6 meters, and then covered by rice paper and hanging, the center head hanging on the rock. And then when the fog come down, and then the museum to drop ice, dry ice, to cause the steam to mix. Later, the fog come down more and more, and then the steam, it also came more dramatically. Then whole place, you only see the white sky, the ground all white, the center, the stream more white move, and after 2 hours slowly cleared up, you will see Pacific Ocean behind. So I did a lot of work, even from painting to installation, but still it's a very nature, Oriental or Chinese tradition cultural influence. Until 95, I mentioned that turning point. I met Bernie Glassman, and then a lot of work involved societal landscape. And then I don't feel like say I has to be Chinese artist. I mean, yes, I'm Chinese. I look like Chinese. My language, if our interviewer can speak Chinese, I probably can talk more more freely. But yes, but then I'm not only Chinese, I limit myself, Chinese artist. I think I'm an artist. I'm a contemporary artist. I'm interested to see the different culture, how to absorb together, how to integrate, or how even dialogue. And that sometimes makes me recall when I was at Dunhuang Cave in 1979, I saw even the content, the images, the same, Shakyamuni and also Buddhist stories, but the style different, from different time, from different ethnics. So the culture can be crossed, can be dialogue, can be emerge, dependent on the artist, how your choice. So that's, I very much enjoy when I was that long time in New York. That's so important for me. And then later, like a lot of artist friends come to visit, and I say, yes, you can, of course, go to MoMA, Guggenheim, Metropolitan Museum. There's a lot of galleries, good, but also spend a little time, just have a coffee, sitting on the side to just watching people, the culture, where the art came from, lifestyle, culture, and then you will meet different people, different languages, different accent, and different lifestyle. That's together, that's New York. So that's a very strongly, widely influenced my artwork, because a lot of my artwork have those a dialogue. Or later I say the word, my work is a balance between difference.
Yeah, thank you for collaborating on that. And it's fascinating. You've brought up the term societal landscape many times, and maybe it's a good opportunity to ask you to collaborate, elaborate on that concept.
Societal landscape, of course, people will say landscape is beach or mountain or a tree or a street. When I talk about societal landscape, it's include cultural, include events, include political, include lifestyle, humanity. So for instance, I can give it again examples like Envoy of Peace. That piece I did in 1995. That's international issues. It's a political, historical issues. But I'm not just a political issue. I just repeat that or as a document, but how to absorb, how to translate, how to put the artist's statement into this project. So I came out Envoy of Peace. I bring everyone, people we don't know each other. I don't know who they are and how they draw. But I designed the ideas, and then later all the wish from people from all around the world land down in Hiroshima flow. So some like for Chinese, focus on Chinese tradition, like for instance, like I say landscape, societal landscape. I did one Mirage Garden in San Francisco Asian Art Museum. A similar project I showed at the Metropolitan Museum in New York, and also in China, I did a few museum show like that, and like culture has to be changing, how to be missing. Sorry, outside some motorcycle. Did you hear the noise? That's the Venice Beach part of it. So, and also human traces. I would say that's really much like a part of a landscape, societal landscape, because the human traces, I'm not only draw people from different portraiture, from different background. And yes, I made the whole museum looks like an archaeology site. And all the drawing, the edge is torn. It's like a male, females, and then from different ethnic I met. Even in London, I started in London, but in British Museum, I have a lot of antiques and people I met in the street and from different migration, immigrant. And I asked the 3 questions, same question for everyone. I have record, what is your happiest experience in your life? What is your saddest experience in your life? The third one, what do you want to say to people in 100 years in the future? So once I record, for the exhibition, those recorded voices, I edit in the speakers. Sometimes you walk in the museum space, you heard one people talking. You get closer, you heard more clear. Otherwise, just sometimes you heard 5 people talking. It's in the random with all the images, people from a different portraiture from different people, and some from the antique, from and like hundreds years, 1,000 years, those images. It's all together. I almost like want to survey our human, including ourselves. And then in the end, pass this room, you will see the mirror glass section, the different angle. Don't only see yourself in different angles. Like when we first we look at it, we survey this society, and then suddenly you only can look at yourself. In the end, there's a big room, 3 walls. There's a 3 question on the wall. So people write down the question on the wall. So if I was in the show, in the gallery or museum, I document, or assistant or people or museum document. So every day, more and more, lot of stories, very interesting. And then it's thousands covered. So I have a lot of document. I mean, that's really reflect people in different backgrounds and all time. For instance, like in 2002, I started the project. A lot of people, what do you want to say to people in 100 years? A lot of people answer is stop killing each other, because at that time I have 9/11, have an Iraq war. And 2019, I did it in London. A lot of people, it's more concerned, talk about 100 years. So what do you want to talk to people 100 years? So ecology, because we are concerned our environment. But nowadays change. So that's really connected. It's because from this audience, their personal voice, you want to put together, you really see, is there different ethnic, different background, different cultural background, different religions, is there any similarity? And then you always see what is our society mostly covered the issues. Because for instance, like, 100 years, if we see some image from 100 years ago, people left, people talk about their life, talk about imagine with us, with our life. You see, that's the link. We are part of the link in the human history.
It almost makes us, when we're doing this archival interview, feel like part of the landscape process. We're recording your experiences as your life history, and many others as well. I actually also want to put Houston into our conversation, given the way we are so honored to have you in our current exhibition that's ongoing at Asia Society. And also you have shown at Houston many times, in addition to your many phenomenal inclusion in really establish our institutions like the Metropolitan Museum and beyond. We just want to see how Houston has become part of your life, and how we are accommodating your art and so on.
Yeah, it's lovely, because you talk about it, bring me back like 20 years ago. I had a first show in Houston, 2003. And in Barbara Davis Gallery, and then Device Art Space. I showed number of projects is there, and also get a very good support, and people's lovely, and also there's a beautiful museum collections, really. I mean, include Asia Society, but also like a lot of beautiful, and also Roscoe chapter, the chapter of Roscoe. It's amazing. Then this time, after 20 years, I back to again. Each time I shock. I mean, like it's complete and flat, like, that's powerful. So yeah, and the Asia Society show, this first time I showed Asia Society, I'm very happy. The curator, she chose this work. And so with a group Chinese artists in the show, and then also I went to the opening, and I saw how to display it for the site. They did it very professional, and I'm very very happy, very enjoyed, and I hope the audience in Houston will like my work or enjoy it, or and because I showed one work is a Robbing Planet. It's like more like my dialogue with universe, and because the Robbing Planet in physical, like, it's impossible to realize, but in the aesthetic way, in the dramatic, romantic, poetic way, to combine, to realize. I think that's back to my Tangdanese poetry, or some those experience. I think, because that's the artwork. That's the artwork. But I'm also very happy. I thought about tracing, because tracing is a function. It's tradition, ancient function. But I play with using that to become a link between contemporary to past, between reality to metaphysics. So that's I start to tracing in my art project is 2011. Like in beginning, I mentioned, in Venice Beach.
Yeah, we're so honored to have you in Houston, and we'll hope that we'll continue to be able to support your work. And
Thank you. I'm really looking forward. Yes, and then that's a lovely experience. I'm looking forward back soon.
Oh, wonderful. And I guess we're coming to the end of our interview. And I also want to pop the same question that you were asking to your survey. So how would you like to be remembered? And both as an artist or as a being, as a, I guess, social person.
Oh, wow. I think, it's like I would say, a very truly creative and in the individual artistic way to create my artworks with the artistic style. Because like I mentioned, usually people working on one direction, but for me, my one direction is in and out, like inhale and exhale, like my breathing, like inside I dialogue with nature, universe, also I survey the society. So that's my very unique artistic person style. So I hope people realize, people in the future enjoy it.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. And is there anything else you would like to add for this interview?
No, I hope I'm not like a blah 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 talk too much. But thank you very much. Thank you for your time to interview me. You have very interesting question and brought me a lot of good memories or some deep memories, and it's give me a chance to look back on myself, even from my childhood. Thank you for this. You give me this opportunity.
Not at all. Thank you for your time. And I believe it was pretty thorough, and we're so honored to have it on record.
Yeah. Okay. And then also, if you would like, I can email you some images if you, or any other images, or the artwork we mentioned, we talk about today.